Welcome, everybody, to the Utah Stories Show. So, on the program today, we have an awesome episode. It's Eddie Johansson and Fred Moe. They are two of Utah's top restaurant entrepreneurs. And we're going to be talking about how they've been impacted by COVID, as well as telling some of their stories, how they grew their restaurants. I think both of their models, if you're interested in food, if you love good food, if you're a foodie, you're going to love this episode because you'll learn all about how they're dealing with COVID, how you stay safe, what you can do to go and support local restaurants in Salt Lake and around Utah. But before we get to that, I want to tell you about our new sponsor, Green Bikes. Green Bike is a Salt Lake City nonprofit bike share program that connects employment and residential centers to transit stops and popular entertainment destinations. Green Bike seeks to improve community health, air quality, and increase the use of existing transit infrastructure. Green Bike is a local nonprofit public-private partnership between Salt Lake City, Utah Transit Authority, Select Health, and other private sponsors. To date, Green Bikers have removed 5.8 million vehicle miles from local roads. They've prevented more than 5 million pounds of CO2 from entering our air, all while burning 76 million calories in the process. That's 267,000 slices of pizza. To learn more about Green Bike and find out how you can take as many rides as you want for a year for less than 20 cents a day, follow Green Bike on social media at SLC Bike Share or visit greenbikeslc.org. That's greenbikeslc.org. They now do electric bikes and traditional bikes, and I'm finding their stuff, their stands are all over the place. So you could actually find one of their stands, park near it, drive the bike downtown, and commute and get a much better workout and a much better experience than getting in your car. I highly recommend them. All right, the Utah Stories Show is also brought to you by Action Toy Rental. So the lakes are open and it's cooled down a bit. It is time to get out of your house and rent a jet ski from Action Toy Rental. This summer, you can rent 2 jet skis for as low as $277 per day. You can take out your friends and family to the lake and enjoy a set of Yamaha jet skis that are so super powerful they can pull someone on a tube, wakeboard, or water skis. They're also super easy to use. I've learned that myself. They're powerful, but they're very easy. Be sure to book them online using coupon code UT2020 to save an additional $40. If you don't want to wait till the last minute, you don't want to wait until the last minute to make your reservation because the weekends book up very quickly. So go to actiontoyrental.com now and see what days are available and book your 2 jet skis for any day you want to go to the lake. They also offer boats, and you can find out everything they have to offer at actiontoyrental.com. Bring the fun to your next day on the lake. The lakes are open. You're going to have a ton of fun. And remember to use the coupon code UT2020. So go right now to actiontoyrental.com. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, we've decided to change the name of our podcast from the Utah Stories Show to the Hidden Utah Podcast. The reason for that is because we feel like calling it Hidden Utah goes in line better with what our actual show is all about. We want to answer the questions of how and why things are the way they are in Utah. So you get a lot of the what that's happening from the newspapers and the broadcast news and the television stations, but how and why things are the way they are, how we can maintain our quality of life in Utah, how we can support local businesses, farms, how we can basically preserve what we've got going on here that's great, that's attracting thousands upon thousands of people from bigger cities wanting to move here, how we keep an eye on those bigger issues to make Utah and continue to make Utah a better place to live. So a lot of the things we're covering and that we've covered in the last year, and I kind of consider we've been kind of in a sandbox mode with this podcast, and this is sort of going to be a new relaunch, is we've covered the inland port extensively. We've talked about 5 different experts about that terrible idea to build a giant, massive shipping and receiving center on the west end, northwest quadrant of Salt Lake City, where there's millions and millions and millions of mosquitoes, and they basically just want to kill them all off, which and how that would impact the migratory bird population with that idea. We've covered that issue extensively. We've covered air quality very extensively, talking to Utah Physicians for a Healthy Environment, Dr. Mensch, Brian Mensch, and we've talked to Dita Seed about that as well. There's a lot of concerns that we are building over the top of a lot of our greatest assets in Utah. There's always, every couple of years, they churn out a new idea to create a ski link or a portal that's going to connect all of the ski resorts in the Wasatch Front together. That's another terrible idea that developers just salivate when they hear about it, because it would interconnect all of our ski resorts. We've talked to Carl Fisher at Save Our Canyons about that. We've talked to people from the Forest Service about that idea. And basically, there's just a lot of developer interest. There's a lot of crony interest. There's a lot of things that are entering into the equation with the growth of Utah that we want to examine. And we're also talking about criminal justice reform and what's happening in downtown Salt Lake City with the police departments. We're talking about Utah's economy and economic growth. We had Val Hale on the program in the very beginning, talking about Utah's economic picture and what they're actually doing for small businesses. And so medical cannabis is also something we're very interested in here. Psychedelics, the growth and rise of psychedelics and alternative medicine. And so if that all sounds interesting to you, as well as nonpartisan, non-biased coverage, obviously I have my own perspective on things, but I do not fall hardcore into the left and I don't fall hardcore into the right. I lean more libertarian, definitely. But if that sounds like it would be interesting to you, then please subscribe to our channel and be a part of the Hidden Utah podcast by subscribing to Utah Stories on YouTube, subscribing to our digital newsletter at utahstories.com, and following us on the social media platforms. So with that, let's get into our program with Eddie Johansson and Fred Moe. Yeah, just a little bit of background. I think I first learned about Yoshi's in maybe around 2006 or 7 when I discovered the store in Murray and just tasted it and tasted how fantastic it was for fast casual sushi. But Eddie, what would be your description of how you got into the restaurant business in the first place? How you got started?
I like to tell people I just got tired of burgers and we were looking for something different in the Salt Lake market. And there wasn't a lot of sushi at the time, although we didn't want to open a full sushi bar, so to speak. We thought we'd keep it a little more casual with just rice bowls, and then rice bowls and sushi. And actually, sushi has been an evolution too. We've always had California rolls and spicy tuna and some basic ones, but yeah, just something more casual, more street, lots of tempura. That's kind of our style.
Nice. And you opened your first restaurant in what year?
2001.
Wow. Yeah, that's a long time. And then what about you, Fred? How did you get into, how did you first start Caffe Molise, and how did you get the concept for it?
Well, I actually moved up here in 95, 96 and started working at the restaurant, helping the woman that had opened it in 93, helped her do a little bit of demo. And then I started cooking a little bit. I'd cooked in a few other places, but then I started cooking with her and we really hit it off. Her name was Shelly DeProto. And she opened the restaurant in 93. And then I came on and we hit it off, and I was managing and helping her out. Then I left to go back to school for a couple years. Then right before the Olympics in 2001, I came back to Molise as a partner, and then bought her out in 2003. And then we opened BTG in a few years later, a couple doors down. And then just recently we moved to our new location, which is in the old Bay Dance Club on 4th South and West Temple. Lots of people will know it as the Bay, and that's kind of how that's the long and short of kind of how I got here. So
Nice. And BTG is by the glass wine, right?
yeah, so BTG is the wine bar that is on the first level. The entrance is on 400 South to that. There's an old antique awning that kind of marks the entrance. And BTG, the kind of the impetus for that, my wife and I like to go out to eat and also like to go out to bars. But we couldn't ever, we didn't really like going to sports bars, and we didn't like going to meat markets. We wanted to go to a more upscale bar. So and we loved wine. So we decided to open BTG. BTG stands for By the Glass, as you mentioned. We've got over 80 wines that are available by the taste, so 2 ounce, by the glass, 5 ounce, or by the bottle. So that's kind of our our emphasis there. We've also got a small plates menu and a full dinner menu down there as well. So
Yeah, it's a place my wife and I totally love too because as you get older, you tend to drink a little bit less beer and appreciate wine a little bit more. And it's just a really fantastic place. And Eddie, talk about a little bit about your growth. Like, how did you? I know you've grown really pretty organically over the years, but how did you decide to continually grow your business over the years?
Um, I mean, some of it, I guess, was calculated when we became a vendor for the University of Utah football, basketball, and gymnastics. That was a little bit of a process to become a vendor there, as well as a vendor for the Utah Arts Festival. I mean, that just got our name out more. So that was some organic growth, I guess. And then the food trucks things became a thing. I mean, that's only been the last 4 years that we've had our food truck, but that actually has become an important piece of what we do. The popularity of food trucks, as you know, has grown tremendously in the past few years.
Yeah.
So that's helped us grow, and it's actually been a good test for me as far as the growth. One of the reasons we chose our new location is we'd had our food truck down at Gallivan 3 times a week, and we were just super busy. So that told me there was a market down there for us. So when this spot became available, we jumped on it. Unfortunately, the timing wasn't perfect, but it is what it is, and we're still super happy to have this location because in the long run, it's going to benefit us. But yeah, that's kind of how we decided to grow. Just did it.
Yeah. And I know when you got into the food truck scene, there weren't a lot of existing restaurants actually jumping in. It was like, I think it was like a way for new restaurateurs to test the market or test a concept. And they were, a lot cheaper to get a food truck than to build out a building and, spend sometimes a couple $1 million just on a new restaurant. Whereas a food truck, you're still going to spend a lot of money, but you had an existing brand, an existing process in place, and probably staff. What would you attribute your success to in the food truck world, getting it going so fast and successfully?
I'm an operations guy. That's my emphasis, and the food truck world did fit us. It wasn't a perfect fit as we had to change some of the operations. Our menu is different from the food truck to the restaurants, just slightly. Obviously, we don't have the same offerings as you do in a restaurant because you're working in limited space. But the food truck world did fit my jam. And what I like about food is, I'm super interested in street food and culture. And we were able to transition well into that market. And it is opposite of what most people do. I can't think of another food truck. There probably is one. I just not think of it that went from restaurant to adding a food truck.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it is going from food truck to restaurant. And as you mentioned, cost of entry in a food truck is so low that it does make it a good test ground for what you're trying to do with your concept.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as far as what you guys did, I mean, what you guys really have in common, I was thinking about it on the way here. You both made big investments in 2019. Fred, obviously, I think you made even the bigger investment, but your investment was into downtown Salt Lake City real estate build outs that could accommodate um, a big crowd of people. And Fred, when you made that investment, obviously you were probably basing it on the convention traffic that you were receiving, prior to your first South location. But it seems like also you were kind of taking the position of one of the crown jewels of downtown Salt Lake City. Do you still feel good about that investment? Is it all gone? I mean, as far as after pre-COVID, was everything going according to plan?
That's a really good question. I think that yeah, pre-COVID, everything was cruising along just fine. We were quite happy with after getting settled in the new space. We kind of first opened up here in September of 18. So we had a little a little time in here before all this hit. And yeah, we our lunches kind of decreased a little bit, which we anticipated from just not being as close to the convention center. Our other location was about a half a block from the main entrance to the Salt Palace, and our new location is about 2.5, 3 blocks south of the secondary entrance to the Salt Palace. So little bit of a drop off on lunch, but we were really excited about all of the private events that we were able to accommodate in our big upstairs banquet level space, the one that's behind me here. And we were seeing a lot more consistency in our dinners. I think probably just from the proximity move, we're actually closer to a lot more hotels now. So that was really good. And then obviously when COVID hit, all bets were off, and we just kind of trudged along for a while. And since we've been able to figure out how to reopen with the guidance from the government and our local health department and CDC, I've been really kind of heartened about how much it's come back. Obviously we don't have the visitors right now. We're still waiting for that tourist piece and convention piece to return, but I think people are really hungry and eager to get out. I didn't think it would return as quickly as it has. We're definitely not to where we want to be or need to be, but it's a lot better than I had anticipated. So there's definitely good good signs that everything's kind of starting to get back a little bit back to normal.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I mean, the way it feels to me when you go around, I can't say all of downtown, but portions of downtown, is that it's so obvious that there's pent up demand, that people have been staying home, staying away from restaurants, deciding, okay, we got to be safe. But now I feel like people are they can manage the amount of risk that they have to take in going out. And I think especially when you're dealing with everybody's wearing masks, there's protocols in place, there's all these guidelines, that the safety factor is really mitigated, the risk factor is mitigated. And so are you able to, what's the capacity of your seating inside now? Are you half or 25%, or what is it?
We have our patio. Our patio is probably about 50% of what it was, and then inside, I think we're just under 50% of what we can usually get in there. The patio is kind of an open space, so we're able to kind of maneuver things a little bit easier out there. The main floor, obviously, we have some built-in kind of banquette seating and some other kind of physical limitations just with the building. Um, but um, but then we also have our banquet room, which we're able to. It's a big wide open space, so we're able to get quite a few people in there. The banquet room is probably about 50%, so probably 50 on the patio, 40 on the main floor, and then about 50% on the banquet level. And again, maintain the spacing between tables. The wine bar is probably in the worst shape as far as that goes. Again, just because of those physical limitations, we have kind of a big, huge booth system in the center of the wine bar, and it's got six kind of horseshoe shaped booths that will seat up to, up to 6 or 8 people. And we're only able to utilize 2 of those booths right now. So
Hmm.
4 of the 6 we can't use. And then obviously just the spacing with all of the other tables and the physical limitations. So the wine bar's been cut down the most, but again, we're still seeing pretty good traffic in there too, considering everything. So.
And how was that all determined? Did the health department come in and just tell you, or did you have some guidelines that you had to try to navigate, or what was that process like?
Um, the health department hasn't come in to do that. I have reached out. We've had a couple of inquiries for larger events. We had a Naval Academy graduation that wanted to have more people than we were technically allowed to. So I've been in contact with the health department,
Hmm.
but there wasn't a ton of guidance there at the beginning. It's gotten a lot better recently, and that's helped quite a bit. But we haven't had anyone come in and inspect. I think the health department is primarily operating. If someone complains about that there's an unsafe situation in a restaurant, then the health department will go and investigate it. But I think the impetus has largely been on restaurant owners and business owners to read the guidance and read the regulations, and then get out the measuring tape and get a team in and figure out what you can fit in there. And
Yeah.
that's basically what we've done. I don't know what your situation was, Eddie, because you were probably still going through some of the inspections and things, but that was kind of what we went through.
Yeah, what was the situation like for you, Eddie? I know you've got one location in Murray that's all indoor seating, and then your new location downtown has indoor and outdoor. Are you able to seat customers in both locations, or what are you looking at in terms of your percentages?
Um, Same as Fred, really. So downtown patio is about 50%, dining room's about 50%. Um, we also built like this amazing table that sits, and I'm staring at it right in the middle of my dining room, and I love it. And it was like a common area seating, but that's all gone. That's at 12. Um, but we just had to move tables, chairs, pull tables out, just exactly what I'm sure Fred's done just to accommodate it. There was very little guidance the health department put out I got an email from them telling us what we're supposed to do, and we just followed those guidelines, and we just try and do our best to accommodate that. But downtown, it's not a problem because downtown's not busy. At least for us, we're different than Fred. We're not relying on the convention or some of that other work that I think they were looking for that they should have. We're definitely a lunch destination, quick lunch, office lunch, lots of caterings, and all that stuff is gone. And to be more specific, there's a company across the street that takes 3 buildings, and one of the office employees was in yesterday, and we were talking about it because I talked to everybody, when you coming back to work, and she told me that 50% of their office will never come back to work.
Wow.
So that's kind of where I'm struggling right now and that they're not alone. I talk to every single person that works in an office downtown to find out to help me plan for the future. What are they doing? And most of them are saying, a percentage of our workforce will not come back to work because they just figured out they don't need to.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing is the commercial real estate market might be the most adversely long-term affected market because all these businesses that are paying a fortune in rent, if they see a model or a way they can save thousands and thousands of dollars by not having so much office space, why would they go back? It just makes sense for having more people work at home.
Yep.
But have you seen, Eddie, a lot more takeout business? Like, are a lot of people getting used to the idea of just coming in and picking up their food and taking off?
100%. Yeah. Downtown, downtown's weird. It's just slow. So, if I say 50% is takeout and 50% is dine in, that's not a big number. But at my Murray location, it's probably 80% takeout. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. The amount of online orders and DoorDash and call-in orders that are just getting it to go that's coming through. Like, it can be challenging to run that operation. And I'm suited to do that. Takeout's our thing, but wow. Yeah, it's increased dramatically to the point where even today I walk in the restaurant and I'm thinking, maybe I just need to turn this into a drive-through. As crazy as that sounds, like, do I need to cut a hole in this wall and just figure out a way just to have drive-through only? Or
Yeah, it's something we've gotten used to. We're just like we're basically to the point where when we eat out, we want to eat out on a patio. I mean, we feel totally safe eating outside on a patio. But you go inside of a place, I mean, if you know the restaurants, like I know you guys, of course you're following the safety protocols. But then some of these restaurants, I won't name names, but I drive right past them. You look inside the door and it's just packed full of people. And I think that what they're doing is they're just kind of pushing the needle as far as they can go, waiting to see if they're going to get a phone call from the health department. And I don't blame them. I mean, why wouldn't you? Everybody needs to do what they can to survive, but it's at that point you kind of feel like you probably should be doing takeout. But what about you, Fred? You're probably not traditionally much takeout, but are you seeing a lot of takeout orders?
Um, I wouldn't say we're seeing a lot. We're seeing an increase in takeout, but our business has usually focused around people dining in. So we did see an uptick in takeout, but we haven't seen a dramatic increase like Eddie has. So I know a lot of places have, but again, our emphasis has always been kind of on dine in. We are pivoting. We've done a few offsite catering jobs and done a few things like that. But obviously, for the wine bar, it's definitely kind of a destination thing because of Utah's liquor laws. But even the restaurant is definitely more of an experience, a night out. Coming out, being served, kind of having a nice conversation with the staff, with the server, maybe enjoying a bottle of wine. And again, like you said, the patio has just been huge for all of this. So yeah, we have seen a little bit of an increase in takeout, but definitely not huge.
Yeah, and you are your new building is absolutely a destination. It's just amazing how beautiful it is. And but my guess is, did you guys both receive PPP money and EIDL funds from the government to keep your doors open?
yeah, I did, but unfortunately for me, there was such a mad dash for that cash. Um, I just used the history that they asked for, but it didn't include my new restaurant. So I'm super grateful for it because it did help, but I didn't get any money, any PPP money for labor at my downtown store that we operate. So
Oh, because you need to show the last year of history, right?
yeah, and there might have been some language in that whole process to allow for that, but again, everybody was just losing their mind trying to apply for that stuff, was just crazy at the
Mm-hmm.
time. So the long of the short, or the short of the long, is I just tore through the money
Yeah.
last 8 weeks.
Yeah, uh, the again, nobody anticipated this, and the SBA was scrambling to get their stuff figured out, and all the banks that were actually lending the money were scrambling to figure out what the guidance was, and every employee or every business owner was scrambling to make sure they didn't miss out. And we got in the first round, we got our loan, and it actually ended up being a little bit working to our disadvantage a little bit because we were closed there for about a month. So so that it was almost more beneficial if you got it later, because
Yeah,
then you
they
can actually
changed the
use some of
laws.
those funds when you were reopening. But
Mm-hmm.
it is, it happened that way, and we're fine with it. Like Eddie said, it definitely helped bridge bridge the painful month and a half where we were, either closed or just doing takeout. But we're really happy to have people in our space again. So, yeah.
Nice. So neither of you is relying on that money at all at this point. Is
Nope.
that right?
Nope.
No, we're just yeah, like Eddie said, we burned through that pretty quick. So yeah, we're just operating on what we have now. There have been a few go-ed loans that or grants that we've gotten. We got one to reimburse us for some of the PPE, and then there was the other Shop in Utah grant that they put out that we're trying. We're still waiting to hear from. I know some people have received it, so there's been a few other funding sources, but yeah, it's basically just regular restaurant revenue at this point.
Yep. Yeah. So what's your level of optimism for each of you guys? You think you're going to have to scale back and take a couple steps backward before you can move forward again, or what do you think? Are you going to be able to go full speed ahead once we're in the clear? I think you have the expression on your face that I feel right now with my business. It's like, gosh, as far as events.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to answer it. I mean, Murray's fine, but the downtown market is just so different now, and I do have some concern, like we talked about earlier, about business offices not coming back to work. Is that going to be forever? Is that a short-term thing? I'd like to stay optimistic. I am staying optimistic. I've told my team that we're going to look past COVID a little bit and stop talking about COVID and just work with what we got and figure out some kind of marketing strategy to move forward now. We're still surprisingly encountering some staffing issues that historically have plagued the restaurant industry. I'm sure Fred feels that pain. Staffing is always like the number one problem. I thought, given this economy, that we wouldn't have so many challenges, but we're trying to find 2 full-time cooks right now, and we are struggling with it. I'm working day and night, and it's getting old. But I'm also very sensitive to, what is tomorrow going to bring, and I don't want to overstaff, and I don't want to, overcommit myself because I'm not good at letting people go. I don't want to have to let anybody go. We've managed to keep a hold of everybody that wanted to stay with us the whole time. So I don't know how to answer that. We are getting busier. This week hasn't been as I had hoped, but the prior month is showing increase, and that even that little bit of increase gives me optimism and hope that we can keep moving forward. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. What about you, Fred?
Yeah. So I'm pretty optimistic. Like you were mentioning before, I think there is a real hunger for normalcy, and restaurants are a big part of people's normal lives, right? And one of the things that we noticed, we've had live jazz on Fridays for as long as since before I even came to the restaurant. So going on 25 years or so, and people have never. Sometimes you'd get people that were excited about the band, and sometimes you'd get people that didn't want to be too close to the band because they wanted to visit. But it's been interesting since we've reopened and had that. People are just clamoring for live music, anything that resembles normalcy and kind of feels. I think that's comforting to people right now. So I think there is pent up demand, and I think when we are able to get things to a more normal state, the sooner we can do that, the better, obviously, for most businesses, us included. But when we get back there, I'm pretty optimistic. The one thing that I don't know, I think the convention landscape will be a little bit different, and I think group gatherings, obviously, will by necessity be quite a bit different. I don't know if that will impact our ability to seat as many people in our rooms. If our capacities will go down or stay down to where they are. But overall, I think I'm optimistic. I don't think, sometimes it's hard to wake up and and see where you were last year and look at the numbers today and think, holy hell, what's going on and what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
but usually I get over that pretty quickly and try to just focus on the work that I have to do in front of me. And like Eddie was saying, we are seeing incremental gains week over week over week, and that's what we want to see. The longer that happens, the better for us. So, you know, we're happy, and we're keeping optimistic.
That's great. Yeah, and as far as our magazine goes, we've been working with restaurant owners for 8 years now, and you guys are some of the hardest working, dedicated people I've ever met. And I think it's the locally owned and operated restaurants that are really the fabric of our communities. And what we can kind of understand with COVID is these chain restaurants, especially the ones that are drive-through, they're doing okay because they obviously have a model which is conducive to getting people in and out and getting food fast and quickly to customers. But these restaurants that actually provide an experience, which both of you have, unfortunately, you're the ones who are hit the hardest by that. And if at the end of this, we end up losing a lot of the social fabric of restaurants, and especially the ones that are doing farm to table and partnering with farmers and really a big part of the community, it would be a very sad thing. So my call out to all of our listeners and watchers is go out and support local. I mean, I'm sure you appreciate these folks in your communities, and it's now more than ever that we got to go out and support these folks because they do an amazing job, and I love both of your restaurants. The eggplant parmesan at Caffe Molise, it's the best I've ever had. Lasagna is amazing. The rice bowls that are at Yoshi's and the sushi rolls are amazing, especially for your price. It's just incredible. You're able to make such a great product for what you pay for it. So I wish you guys all the best, and thank you so much for coming on. I know you're super busy, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Fred.
You're welcome. Yeah.
All right. So with that, that concludes this segment of the Utah Stories Show. I want to tell you the show is brought to you by Canyon Meadows Grass-Fed Beef. And if you have not tried pasture-raised beef, you need to try Canyon Meadows. Their ranch is located in eastern Utah in beautiful Altamont. You can visit cmrbeef.com to stock up on ground beef, roasts, and steaks. They have pickup locations throughout downtown Salt Lake City and all over Salt Lake City, including the downtown farmers market. And if you don't know the difference between factory farm beef and pasture-raised, you need to give it a try. Go visit their website, pick out a package of steaks, ribs, ground beefs, or roasts, and they will give you a special discount if you are a Utah Stories listener or watcher on our YouTube channel. Just use the offer code UT Stories when you check out, and it's going to be a great way for you to sample some of the best beef I've ever tried. And we use their beef all the time when we're doing barbecues or company barbecues, and it's awesome. It's good for the earth, good for you, and delicious flavor. Again, that's cmrbeef.com. Go there right now and use offer code UT Stories. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for being a part of Utah Stories and the conversation. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and hit that little bell icon so every time we come out with a new video, you're alerted when it comes out. And if you're listening on iTunes, especially, go give us a review if you like this kind of content. A 5-star review would be great, but any kind of review if you like this, it really helps elevate our status on that platform so more people find out about us. And with that, this has been Rich Markosian, editor and publisher of Utah Stories. This is our new magazine. It's available all along the Wasatch Front in 700 locations. Be sure to pick up your copy, and if you don't know where to find it, you can actually email me, richard@utahstories.com. Tell me where you live, and I'll tell you where to pick one up. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.